Welcome, everyone, to the DeVory Darkins show. It is November 4th, election day on this off year. As far as elections are concerned, we already know we have New York City, New Jersey, Virginia, and California. Now, just so you guys all understand, later on tonight, we'll probably be going live covering the California election because I think that's the one that's the most important. And obviously for a multitude of reasons, but we'll talk about that later in this show. Also, the president just made a huge announcement regarding SNAP benefits. It seems like he's actually reversing course and is now saying he's refusing to pay up when it comes to SNAP benefits until the Democrats vote to open up the government. This is just coming in as we speak. And then, of course, we're going to get into Mondani. There was a bomb threat at a couple of polling stations or voter stations and what the voters actually have to say, including someone that I really want to hear from, which is Nancy Pelosi. I think you guys will find that interesting as well. If you're new here, we give you common sense commentary for these uncommon times. I don't like to tell people what to think. I like you to make up your own mind. Critical thinking skills are rare these days, and so I'm not the smartest cookie in the shed, but I definitely want to encourage you guys to think for yourself. So we like to show you both sides. Sometimes I have people who watch and they're like, I don't want to hear what the left has to say. Well, I think you should hear what they have to say because you need to know how they think. And if you're really intelligent, you want to know why they think the way they do, because you have friends and family members and colleagues who think like that. And you're not going to escape them. You're going to run into these people. And so it's good to understand why they think the way that they do so you can navigate that. And of course, also recognizing where we're going as a country as far as politics are concerned. So at any rate, that's the whole purpose here. And I think with that, let's go ahead and get into this first story, which is really, it's really stunning if you ask me. So bomb threats were called in not only one, but two voting stations. One of them was in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, according to Fox News. Let's take a listen to that now.
Right now, bomb threats forcing voters out of at least two polling places in New Jersey as residents across the state cast ballots for their next governor. Mark Meredith is live in Montclair with the latest for us. Mark.
Ainsley, Brian, and Lawrence, good morning once again, friends. Some brand new information coming into our newsroom that we've learned that these threats were communicated electronically via email to at least 7 different counties across the Garden State. These threats certainly being taken seriously, and out of abundance of caution, some of the polling places were temporarily either closed or suspended as they moved voters to different locations. And then as they were doing those searches, then either able to reopen some of the facilities. We got a statement from the Attorney General of New Jersey. I want to put it up on the screen for you. It says, law enforcement officers have responded at each affected polling place. Some of these polling locations have already reopened to the public. The polls in New Jersey opened at 6 a.m. sharp. We have not seen any added security in the last hour or so, but it is certainly possible that we could see more because at this polling facility right here behind me, we are going to be seeing the Democratic nominee for governor, Mikey Sherrill. She'll be out here with her family to cast her ballot, speak with reporters. Her campaign telling us they are aware of these threats, but no other official statements yet coming from Governor Murphy or as well as the Jack Ciattarelli campaign, the Republican nominee for governor. There's the question, of course, is whether or not this would have any impact on turnout. These threats were communicated fairly early in the morning, and as you could tell from the AG statement here, they wanted to get this cleared up as quickly as possible. They didn't want to see anybody delayed or to face any obstructions of getting a chance to cast their ballot. But an idea of just how people are so concerned about the political climate we are in right now.
Okay. Listen, so my question is this for the Department of Justice, particularly the FBI. Will they track these people down? I mean, who's calling in bomb threats? I hope that they catch these people because that's serious. So you call in these threats. They have to close the voting stations. Then what? How do these people cast their vote? It's interesting how Democrats cry about voter ID and how it, prevents people from casting their vote. No, a bomb threat will prevent people from casting their vote. Can we be honest here? It's interesting. Okay. So as I'm listening to that, I'm reading this on X in real time. The GOP must file an emergency lawsuit to extend voting times in every single New Jersey county affected by these bomb threats immediately. And at this point, it hasn't happened yet. It's interesting. So some were coming out of Paterson, New Jersey, Cherry Hill, Anyways, like you guys heard, it came up to being 7 polling stations. I mean, what do you guys say to that? Again, I don't want to hear about voter ID. I want to hear about bomb threats. It's interesting. Okay, let's go to what Zoran Mondani had to say in regards to these bomb threats. Take a listen.
It's incredibly concerning. And I think that it is an illustration of the attacks we're seeing on our democracy. Sometimes they're blatant and explicit in the manner of these bomb threats. And we have to understand this as part of the general approach the Trump administration has taken to trying to intimidate voters with baseless allegations of voter fraud as a means of trying to repress the voice of Americans across this country.
Ridiculous. Just ridiculous. I don't know if he was trying to suggest that, you know, it had something to do with President Trump or Republicans. Now, why not just say, hey, bomb threats should be condemned in our country when people are trying to vote? It's like what I was just saying right now. Again, this guy is dangerous because he's using the moment for political gain instead of focusing on people's safety. I don't know if you guys saw it the same way, but that's the way that I see it. Okay, so let's go to this next clip because, again, focusing on Mondani here. Here he is trying to defend his policies, which we know are destructive. Remember, I talk about this every day. I want us to get away from attacking the people and the person and attack the ideas, the policies, okay? And speak about that, because if we can debate those ideas properly, it can help people understand why they need to change their vote. And if you are thinking for a second that people don't change their votes, yeah, they do. There were people last year that refused to vote for Donald Trump. And then what happened? They started doing their research. Alternative media started getting more attention. And then people started to hear competing ideas. And then they voted differently. So don't for a second think that there aren't people out there who still need fresh information so they can make their own choices. There's plenty of people out there like that. All right, let's go ahead and play this one.
Question affordability in this city, living here is top of everyone's mind. It has gotten obscenely expensive to live here, to do anything here. So you're proposing free grocery stores, free buses, $30 minimum wage, all of which sounds incredible.
Cheaper groceries, not free groceries.
Excuse me, cheaper groceries. But what people want to know is, great, I would love all those things. Yeah, how do you pay for it? Who's going to end up footing the bill for those programs?
So I'll answer that question by first explaining some of the endorsements that Andrew Cuomo has received. Elon Musk's endorsement is one of the most expensive endorsements that Andrew Cuomo has ever gotten, because it cost him and the state of New York $959 million in tax breaks that he gave Elon Musk years ago when he was the governor of this state. That's actually more money than it would cost to make every bus free in New York City. So I've said clearly that I believe we should tax the top 1% an additional 2%, that's New Yorkers making $1 million or more a year, and have the most profitable corporations pay the same tax rate they do at the top tier in New Jersey, what they would actually pay here in New York. These things together would pay for the entirety of our economic agenda and start to Trump-proof our city. Because as you've said, the endorsements that Andrew Cuomo has got, and this morning he started it by going on Fox and Friends, we're talking about Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and Stephen Miller. These are the architects in many ways of the crisis of authoritarianism that New Yorkers are facing. And Andrew Cuomo is so unwilling to tax Donald Trump's billionaire donors because he knows those are the same ones whose checks that he's busy cashing trying to get back to city.
I'm sorry, guys. I didn't mean to blow so loud into the mic. I just, even I have a tough time listening to people just straight up lie. So Mondani wants to tax people who make $1 million or more because he believes that's going to pay for his socialistic policies. I don't even think that's enough, to be honest with you guys, but we'll have to crunch the numbers on that, I suppose. Here's the bottom line to it. At the end of the day, because it's the United States of America, people will just move. You see, I think a great life lesson here in politics that I've been able to witness is that you got to take care of the main things. The problem with New York is the people who were in charge previously to this election, like Andrew Cuomo, Eric Adams, they didn't take care of the essentials. Alvin Bragg, Big Tish, they're not taking care of the essentials. What are the essentials? Safety. Why are people burning on the subway? Right? I mean, we talked about it yesterday. I mean, you were putting illegal aliens in luxury hotels and giving them, over $10,000 on a debit card every month? Are you kidding me? So I'm not shocked that Madami has a real chance here because the politicians forgot about the essentials. And now they push the voters into a position where they're prepared to make a radical decision. We know his policies won't work, but that doesn't matter right now. So let me give you guys the bottom line so far, because I think this is a very important thing to understand. And all of this rhetoric and noise and tribalism is understanding this. Our politicians in Washington, D.C. have sold the American people out on both sides of the aisle for their own gain, financially, from a standpoint of influence, power, politics. They've done that every single administration. And as a result, the more they continue to do that, the more they push the American people away and they back us into a corner. And then what happens? A candidate is presented to us that is not like them, and we vote for them every single time. It's what happened with Donald Trump. And that's exactly what's about to happen with New York City. I mean, again, we got to wait for the results to roll in here. And let's say, even if he loses, let's say he loses by 1%. I mean, that's still interesting because that means people are shifting towards socialism. That's what the people in Washington don't understand. They think they can continue to sell out the American people and we're not going to get desperate. I mean, it's funny how that works, right? Okay, let's see here. Let's go to this clip here. This is about what I continue to tell you guys, which is the most dangerous person in politics, which is a liberal who happens to be white and is a female. Pay attention to this clip.
I think what's really important and standing out for me right now is if we can take ourselves like a high level, like not say immigration, not say economy, not say all the hot talking points, and just ask ourselves, how are we treating our neighbors? Like, how are we treating one another? And is it okay that yesterday, on Saturday, 42 million of our neighbors no longer can feed themselves? Is it okay that our neighbors are getting taken off the streets by ICE? Is it okay that gender-affirming care is being taken from young people who really need it to survive? Is it okay that the Supreme Court has now justified racial profiling? That's not how I want to treat my neighbor. So I want to take away the hot button labels and just kind of ask ourselves, how are we treating our neighbors and how will our policies and those who we vote affect that? Can we vote for people who will treat our neighbors the way that we want to be treated? That's my question. And for me right now, that's the Democratic Party.
Yeah, I totally agree with her, right? We should think about how we treat our neighbors, okay? And in saying that, I mean, do you think we're treating our neighbors good when we allow illegal aliens to cross over the border without vetting them? We allow them to flood these neighborhoods, flood the classrooms, flood our budgets at the city level that ends up bankrupting the state and the city? I mean, is that treating our neighbors good? Is treating our neighbors good when politicians are willing to fly to another country to defend an illegal alien who has committed crime, like beating up his wife, trafficking humans, and also being a part of a gang, over an American citizen like a mother who lost her daughter at the hands of a criminal illegal alien? Is that treating our neighbors good? I don't think so. I'm sure you guys agree with me on that. So I told you, they're the most dangerous person in politics because their worldview is like inverse. It's convoluted, it's flawed, and I'm not attacking the person, I'm attacking the ideas. It just so happens that most people who believe in those ideas just so happen to be liberal women. It's the one voting bloc that President Trump has virtually no support. Okay, that's not on purpose. It's the one voting bloc that I believe is behind this whole idea of toxic masculinity, and that's pushed men away from the Democrat Party. I saw a clip earlier today. I don't have it with us right now, but there was a clip basically that said, you know, the party is made up of three people: men who believe they're women, men who are controlled by their wives, and women who believe they can control men. And I was like, man, that's just so interesting. That's exactly their mindset. Even moderate Democrats disagree with this stuff. but they're no longer the voice anymore. They're not the loudest, and they really don't have any power at the moment because, as you guys have seen from Schumer and Jeffries and Barack Obama, they have refused to condemn Zohran Mamdani. See, that's what I'm saying. This party is willing to do whatever it takes, even if it violates the rights of others, in order to win an election. You follow what I'm saying? They're willing to violate the rights of other people. They're willing to throw the American city under the bus, or the American voters under the bus. They're willing to break norms. They're willing to break laws because that's how much they hate President Trump. Okay. Now, let me check in to see what you guys have to say about this stuff so far, because I need a break here, because this stuff is crazy. Let me start on Rumble. Shout out to you guys on Rumble for watching us today. Appreciate your time and attention. Yeah, I don't agree with any of that stuff that lady was spewing. Exactly. See, this is it right here. I love this. Can I zoom in? Yeah, I can. Zoom in this right here. Look at this. This is the term suicidal empathy. This is posted by A Day in the Life 36. Shout out to you. Suicidal empathy, folks. That's exactly what Democrats are operating from. That type of mindset. Here we go. I know a woman who hates Trump but voted for him because she hates the trans movement more. See, yeah, it just goes to show. Here's my thing, though. It's interesting. So you guys heard that Dick Cheney passed away, which is, it's not for me to know where he's going to end up at, but, hopefully he rests in peace, right? Even though this guy was responsible for many deaths of everyday Americans, including sons and daughters. We know that. I was a part of the Afghanistan war. I know very well. What is my point to all of this? Even when someone on the left, like a Dick Cheney, who passes away, or Joe Biden, who gets cancer, and he has a multitude of cancers at this point, I don't ever hear conservatives coming out and celebrating and wishing death upon these people. Because I don't believe conservatives, in my opinion, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong here, and maybe because this is my own experience, I don't hate Dick Cheney. I don't hate Joe Biden. I don't hate Kamala Harris. I don't hate this dangerous liberal that we just listened to. I don't live my life with hate. I disagree. Hate is poison, people. Let me show you how bad. Let me show you what hate can actually do to you. Let's fast forward to this particular clip. Let me show you what hate can do to a person. Play this clip. This is Nancy Pelosi last night. Here's her comments about the president. Take a listen.
Just a vile creature. The worst thing on the face of the earth. But anyway.
You think he's the worst thing on the face of the earth?
I do, yeah. I do.
Why is that?
Because he's the president of the United States and he does not honor the Constitution of the United States. In fact, he's turned the Supreme Court into a rogue court. He's abolished the House of Representatives. He's chilled the press. He's chilled the press. He's scared people who are in our country legally.
I know you've said the focus is on Prop 50. I know you've said you won't talk about your future until after Prop 50, but there is speculation about what you're going to do next. Can you talk to us just about what the thought process is? How do you weigh the personal and the political?
Well, first of all, when people start, as in the press, speculating, is she going to run, is she not going to run, other people's file, or say they're going to run, you know what that does? That gives me so much support. People calling me saying, I'm for you, I'm for you, I'm for you,
right.
Representing.
Let's go back to you guys. Yeah. So I would have followed up and asked her, what do you mean when you say he's abolished the House of Representatives? What evidence do you have of that? That's why I don't respect much people that I see on CNN, Fox News. They don't ask the real questions. It's just a reality, unfortunately. And then they wonder why nobody listens to them anymore, except when we are obviously reacting to their nonsense. At any rate, yeah, that's just, I don't wish hatred upon anybody. I think living your life with hate blinds you from reality. And when you can't see reality, that means you're going to lose every time. You're going to lose every time. Let me show you guys this. I think this is good. Let's go to this. So I posted this yesterday. Let's see. Is this going to let me click on it or what? Okay. Seems like X is frozen. At any rate, the point is that you can't live your life with hatred, guys. It's all bad. Here we go. Okay. I think you guys can see this now. It's fascinating that we continue to witness a political party that refuses to accept reality exists independent of our points of view. The lesson is clear. If you resist reality, meaning you're trying to argue against it, you deny it, you fight against it, you lose every time because your internal stance doesn't change the facts. The facts are the president has not abolished the House of Representatives. The fact is the Supreme Court is not doing anything special for the president of the United States. They are ruling on cases that are going to have influence over multitude of administrations. They're not thinking about him like that. Now, I would argue the only person really thinking about him like that is KJP because she's caught up in the moment. Some argue she shouldn't even be on the Supreme Court, which that's a whole nother thing. Anyways, the Supreme Court's they're not ruling cases on the person. They're ruling cases on the Constitution. But Democrats won't talk like that unless the Supreme Court delivers a ruling in their favor. Some could argue they have Supreme Court derangement syndrome. They're still ticked off about Roe v. Wade. I don't think they're ever going to let that go. That's what I'm saying. Hatred blinds them from reality, and that's why they're going to continue to lose. Now, they may win today. They may win in New Jersey, New York, Virginia. But those aren't states that I would argue are swing states in a sense, as far as what we saw in last year's election. I would also argue that Republicans haven't had an advantage in those states in quite some time. And this is an off-year election where historically Republicans lose. So I'm not, and just so you guys understand, that's what the mainstream media is going to try to tell you today, that once these results come in, and Democrats win in these states, they're going to be celebrating like, oh, it's over. You know, Trump's reign is over. You know, they're going to try to use this as a point to launch from and I guess get more energy and for their base, but it's all nonsense. Okay. Speaking of nonsense, let's listen to this explanation from this boomer who voted for Mondani. She's out of New York. Let's watch this.
You know, when you hear about Mamdani, you know, you hear a lot from a lot of young people who support him. And what we don't hear from are a number of older New Yorkers who actually support him as well. Do you find yourself among your peers the only one who supports him, or do you find others who feel as you do?
I have breakfast around the corner at this place called Joe's. I'm giving them a plug.
Give them the plug.
And we're all from Mandami, all ages. There's a whole group of us. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of Jews are unfortunately sort of anti. But I am Jewish, but I don't buy that. I don't buy it.
What do you think about some of those who are uncertain about him and worry about his experience and worry about how he would handle President Trump?
I think he would be great. He's the most articulate. I just heard an amazing interview with Remnick from New Yorker, and everybody should hear that. I was jumping through the roof. It was so inspiring, every aspect of the conversation. So the people who are just concerned about Israel, I think, are very narrow-minded and don't see the whole picture.
Oh. Wow, she had a lot to say there. Okay, so let's cover some of the points here. So she makes the argument that Jews are anti-Mondani. Hello? Of course they are. But listen, can I be honest about something? Jewish voters, they are like, what would I say? What's the proper word? I can't put my finger on the thinking of Jewish voters. Why do I say that? Because only 30% of them voted for Trump. Think about that for a second. They're also refusing to vote for Mamdani. They also were standing there when Harvard and Columbia was filled with anti-Semitism, and they still are going to vote Democrat. I just don't understand it. Maybe you guys have the answers to that. Maybe some of you guys are Jewish voters. Maybe you can educate me. I just don't get it. But I'm going to stop there because, you know, I can go all day on that particular subject. At any rate, so she makes the argument that, you know, Jewish voters are anti-Mamdani. But let's just focus on his ideas again. Why would, it doesn't matter whether you're Jewish. Why would you vote for socialism? That's really the question. That's really the question. And I'm not too sure they have an answer for it. All right, now let's go to other voters that are happening or voting today in other elections. This is a New Jersey voter who voted for not Jack, but his opponent. Pay attention.
Was your vote today for Cheryl more about her plan to be governor or more about being a check against the Trump administration?
Being a check against the Trump administration.
Yeah, that for you was the most important thing at this point.
Correct, because it impacts, and I see the impact being, again, the boots on the ground and seeing the need, knowing the need, because we, through my organization, we conduct a community needs assessment. So we hear the voices of the community and we know what the needs are.
Yeah, so Mickey Cheryl is her name. It's fascinating. I've been to New Jersey. I have a best friend who lives in Cherry Hill. I'm not a fan of Jersey, just so you guys all understand. I'm not a fan of New York. My wife and I, we went to New York during COVID. It was really nice to see when nobody was on the streets. I think that's the best way to see New York, in my opinion. We got to go to Ellis Island, Statue of Liberty, 9/11. Well, all of the museums were closed except for the wax museum, which that was fun too. My point is that with all the money they're charging the people who live in these states, as far as taxes are concerned and property taxes, you think it would be cleaner? You think the roads would be in better conditions? They're not. It's fascinating. But that's just obviously me, you know, judging, okay? I live in Texas now, and I like the roads here, and it's interesting because they don't charge us taxes. But at any rate, when you go ask these voters questions regarding Democrats, particularly Mamdani and other candidates that are running, they can't tell you why they're voting for them. And if they do, it's all about Trump. So you're voting because you want to vote against Trump, not because you want policies that will clearly help you and the community that you say that you love. The thinking does not add up for these people. And it's because they're not exercising critical thinking skills. They're allowing their emotions to make the decisions and what they're told. You see, most people right now in conservative media will not come out and say, hey, the president not knowing who he's pardoning is an issue. You're not going to hear that from anybody, really. I told you, we talked about it yesterday. I think that's a problem. I think it needs to be addressed. That's an example of critical thinking. It's okay to criticize the people you support. If you can't do that, you're no better than Democrats. And so we got to call it out. I mean, these voters, they have no idea what they're asking for, but they'll find out, just like California did. Just like California did. All right. Let's go to this voter out of Virginia. She voted for Abigail Spanberger. I think you'll enjoy why she did it. Listen to this.
Government shutdown. I have a bunch of family members that have been affected tremendously, not being able to afford daycare for their kids, still having to go to work, still trying to find a way to put food on the table. So just trying.
How did that inspire you to come out, and how did it inspire your choice of who to vote for?
It inspired me to vote for Abigail. I just aligned very well with her policies. She wants to put Virginia first, and that's something I strongly believe.
Okay. That's her choice to obviously support her. You see, let's just go all the way to it. I'm challenging you guys right now on this. I think you guys will appreciate this thought exercise. Isn't it fascinating that what the American people want is not necessarily what they want. What do I mean by that? The American people say, hey, we're done with inflation. We don't like illegal immigration. We don't like endless wars. And then they elect someone who says he's going to do something about it. And now that he's doing something about it, everybody wants to complain. So you say you don't want illegal immigration, but then you start complaining about people at Home Depot getting deported. Okay, you say that you want free health care, free child care, but you complain about taxes. You guys follow what I'm saying? Oh, you say that you want a better education system. You don't want to pay for anything, but you complain about inflation. That's what I'm saying. Even the American voter is a hypocrite. So that's the part of politics I would say is the most challenging thing for me, is understanding that it's not A to B. It's not 1 + 1 = 2. A lot of times it's 1 + 1 = 6. I just gave you guys prime examples. Now, some of you guys, you're consistent. You're like, I don't care. Get it done. Deport these people. Raise tariffs. Fight inflation. Do whatever you got to do, even if it causes pain. It's like this. Well, we don't want bigger government, but we also don't want any of our federal employees being cut. Now, how does that work exactly? That's why she's voting. Think about how many people in Virginia, New Jersey work for the federal government and is only going to cast their vote because the government is shut down against President Trump. They're hypocrites. These are the same people. Some of them are like, yeah, the government's too big. It can't get anything done. They're always screwing up. We need to downsize. But when their job gets downsized, now they're upset. I don't know, man. I don't know. It's just interesting how politics is in our country, and I think how hypocritical we all are at some points in times. And I just think that the reality is, I don't think the American people want what they want. I don't think they're prepared to pay the price. I had a great conversation with a good friend last night. If the American people really cared about the future, they'd say, you know what? Let's go to a recession right now. Trigger the recession right now. Reset prices, reset value, crash businesses right now. People are going to lose their homes. People are going to lose their jobs. We got to get it done right now. Kicking the recession down the road is only going to make inflation continue to go up. It's just the way economics works. I mean, that's just, recessions are necessary. It resets the marketplace, the reset value. That's what we saw in 2009. It also prevents the American people from overspending. But to trigger a recession would be political suicide, because I'm telling you, voters are hypocrites. They don't want a recession, but really they should demand a recession, especially when they're waking up every day and they're complaining about the cost of housing. They're complaining about the high cost of interest rates. They're complaining about electricity, grocery prices, all of this stuff. None of that's going to get fixed unless a recession happens. So what do you do? Maybe that's the better question. What do you do? I think you got to educate yourself and understand the country we live in. And, hopefully we get people that are in Congress that will do the right thing. But even then, I'm not too sure that's going to happen. All right. I want to read some of you guys' chats, especially on YouTube. But before I do, I want you guys to hear this message from today's sponsor. All right, this is just crazy, because you know what frustrates me the most? It's when these insurance companies continue to lowball everyday Americans when they have a serious accident. What am I talking about? Their pain, the time that they lost, the things that they're going through. These insurance companies don't care about that. They only care about their bottom line, which is why I want to make you guys aware of Morgan & Morgan. This is America's largest injury law firm, because they know when you're seriously hurt, that injury could be worth millions, and they're not going to settle for these lowball offers. And if you're results driven like me, pay attention to these numbers. They got a verdict out of Philadelphia for $26 million. That is 40 times higher than the insurance company. Out of Florida, they got one for $12 million. And then out of New York, $6.8 million, which is 25 times higher. You guys following what I'm saying here? You see, If you've ever been injured, don't overthink this. Protect your rights today. It only takes you a few minutes to see if you have a case, and you could do it all from your phone. And guess what? It doesn't cost you a thing. There's no upfront fees, any of that, unless they're able to get you results, including a win for your case. So did you know that you could start a claim with America's largest injury law firm in just a click by going to forthepeople.com/DeVory? That is forthepeople.com/DeVory, or click the link in the description below. Okay, let's see what your comments are here on YouTube. Thank you guys for your patience. I want to get to some of you guys' questions here. Yeah, thank God Mondani can never be president. I don't even think he should be able to hold office. If you're born outside the country, I don't think you should be able to hold office at all. That might be an extreme stance, but when you have people like Ilmar Omar, that's not a bad argument. As an example. Okay. Let's see here. I hate to say it, the majority of Americans act like children. We think with our hearts and never rationalize the effects of our decisions. We live beyond our means and then blame others. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And the interesting part is we are a young country, but it seems like we are a country in decline. Why? Not because of me and you. It's because the people in Washington. Listen, I don't know everything about history, but I do know this. Every country goes up and down. Every civilization has a peak and then it declines. Who knows? Maybe this country is in decline. We'll see. We'll see what happens. You know, I'm very optimistic. I think it'll all work out. But just maybe things have to get harder. The politicians have to literally, drive this country off of a cliff for us to start anew. That might be possible. I hope that it doesn't happen, but how else do you explain when you're listening to voters every day who are voting for Mondani, who are voting for Abigail Spanberger, and they can't give you actual concrete reasons on why they're doing it? The reasons they are providing are reasons that are propaganda talking points. Not, hey, listen, I'm voting for Mondani because we've noticed the cost of living in this area of town has risen by 15%, and his proposal that he talked about on January 15th of this year absolutely solves that. I looked at the proposal myself, and this is why I believe X, Y, or Z. I mean, can you just give me one? That's all I would ask for. I'll give you an example. Let's be fair. So Jack Ciattarelli, who's running for governor of New Jersey, what's his main talking point? It's rooted in policy. On day one, I will sign an emergency order to end sanctuary cities. And I will make sure that when we arrest criminal legal aliens, we hand them over to ICE. That is clear. ABC 1, 2, 3. Okay, let's keep going here. Let's see. The problem also exists because each president knows they can just pass on whatever damages their non-recession policy causes. Yeah. Exactly. I totally agree. I say it all the time. We should have had a recession in 2021. They should have just let it happen. And now, and if they had did that, we wouldn't be dealing with this record high inflation at this point. But I tell you guys, it's political suicide. Okay, let's go to, let me see what's going on Rumble, then we'll move on. Yep, nothing causes change faster than making everyone uncomfortable. Yeah, so true. DeVory, please ask how the New York City is going to hire and vet all these child care professionals. A lot of kids to promise free childcare. I'm an educator. Yeah, see, this is the other problem with politics. So you have great ideas. It doesn't mean it can be executed at a high level. You can have a great idea. It doesn't mean in reality it'll work because of the way our system is structured. Right? That's why I'm more of a hybrid type of person, meaning like, okay, let's put a couple of ideas together. Okay, like, so if you want to give free childcare, all right, let's say that is a reality, then let's throw in some certain requirements of their parents. Like, hey, we'll give you free childcare, you just can't get a divorce. We'll give you free childcare, but you got to be working 40 hours a week. Right? Like there's got to be some give and take here. Not here's free childcare, do whatever you want. Like I think even SNAP should be some changes as far as, I like what Utah does. I don't know if you guys are aware of this. So Utah has the lowest rate of people on welfare, SNAP, WIC, all these benefits, because they demand not only work requirements, but they also make you take drug tests. And there's a time limit. You can't just be on it for many years on end. So I think you can give some of these things, you can provide some of these services, but you got to have some boundaries on it. You don't set any boundaries, you're going to have chaos. All right, let's go to Byron Donalds. Here he is getting into a debate with CNN because I guess now they are defending Mamdani for some reason. Watch this.
When you put in communist and yes, communist policies, that's what Zoran Mamdani is talking about.
He's not a communist.
It never
Democratic
works.
Socialist. He says he's a Democratic
I can't tell what the difference is.
Well, he can
explain what the difference is.
He can describe the differences for you. The socialism is not the same basis of communism in this country. You know that quite
The
well.
man wants to create government-run grocery stores. He wants free transportation, both of which are impossible to do because how is
a trigger word to try to undermine all of his policies. He's not a. He says he's.
I don't need to undermine his policies. His policies undermine himself because they've never worked. Here's all I want him to do. Tell me where they've ever worked. They've never worked. He knows that. I knows that. But what he's trying to do is promise everybody something that they can't have. And the truth is there is no free lunch, just like there's no free bus. Because you know what happens when you have a free bus? There's nobody there to fix it or to drive it. He knows that. I know that. You know that. America does know it. And it's unfortunate that the city of New York, my former home city, is probably going to have to go through this.
Yeah, they're going to have to learn the hard way. But what he is doing is politics 101. You got to speak to the issues. That's what he's been doing. He speaks to the issues. You can tell he understands exactly what to say when describing these issues. And that's why people are going to vote for him. They have no other alternative solution. Andrew Cuomo can't speak to the issues. He has a failed record. The fact that the president had to come out and tell people to vote for him, you know it's a problem at that point. And his policies, of course, they don't work. We know that. It doesn't matter in politics. When you're running for an election, it's about what you say. And how does that make people feel? That's what people remember, especially your first time around. So, you know, people are going to eat it up and they're going to vote for him. And that's what it is. Now, I will say this. They'll have to learn like California did. People ate up Gavin Newsom. They bought all of his lies. And now millions have left the state. It's just the way it is. So what is a democratic socialist? You guys let me know. I have no idea what that is. I've never even heard of it until he obviously came on the scene. Now, whoever came up with the term, they were smart. They knew what they were doing. It's very easy to remember. You know, on the surface, if you don't think about it, it kind of sounds like it makes sense. And it's interesting how the media just automatically accepted it. Like, I don't even think that's even a reality. But hey, who am I? Okay, one more clip for you. Here is Stephen Miller. I would say describing the truth about the Democrat Party and the direction that they are going, given what we're seeing in these elections today.
the Democrat Party has become dangerously, violently radicalized. And you're right, Sean. Look, I get death threats every day. My wife gets death threats every day. We've obviously had to deal with pretty extensive doxing campaigns. But the truth is, Sean, that people across the country, across the government, across law enforcement, who are fighting for safety, security, prosperity, are dealing with radical left communist threats and attacks all day long. And President Trump, of course, came within centimeters of being assassinated.
1 millimeter.
During the middle of his rally on live television by a wicked, evil assassin, and then only weeks later, a second assassin. If not for a Secret Service agent spotting the barrel of that gun, would have taken President Trump's life, saved by the hand of God himself. We are dealing with a party that is so extreme that considers its opponents to be its mortal enemies, that dehumanizes its opposition, that justifies violent attacks against federal law enforcement, assaults against ICE and Border Patrol, that sides over and over again with criminal aliens, MS-13 gangbangers. Look at how they venerated and worshipped and praised the MS-13 child smuggler that they dubbed the Maryland Dad, somebody who beat his wife and smuggled children and was a member of a terrorist organization, and they held him up as their hero. This is a dangerous party. This is a dangerous movement. And what you're seeing in New York City with Mamdani, that is the future. A party that believes in no bail, a party that believes in no jail, a party that believes in no borders. But here's one group they do want to put in jail. They're political enemies. Like good commies, they will not arrest their criminals. They won't arrest the gang members, but they will arrest their political opposition. That's how society dies, Sean. That's what we're up against now.
Sounds very grim. But again, I'm very optimistic. I believe it's not majority of the country who believes in these radical ideas. I don't think I know. Every week we hear at least one caller who calls in a C-SPAN who is a Democrat talking about they're leaving the party or they're not going to vote for Democrats right now. I think that is the risk that the Trump administration is calculating every day. They know that no matter what they do, as long as they don't do the extreme, of course, that they're dealing with a party who nobody believes in anymore. Now, they've been able to radicalize their base, and that's not going to change, okay? You got progressives who are hardcore. You're not going to change their mind. But when you're talking about moderate Democrats, they are not supporting who the party has become at this point. They don't like how they elect their leaders. We saw what happened in last year's election with Kamala Harris. We saw what happened with Bernie Sanders twice. We saw what happened with Dean Phillips. These moderate Democrats, they're not on board. So I say all that because that's what makes me optimistic is I don't believe the whole country thinks this way. But I do believe if Republicans don't get their act together, they could easily give these people an opportunity to gain power. Now, next year when the midterms comes around, there's a good chance Republicans will lose. Why? Because that's what history shows. It's a pattern. It's a pattern. Whether it's because a new president comes in, makes a lot of changes, the American people don't like it, or the American people believe, for whatever reason, that the president has not lived up to his promises, so then they vote for the other party in Congress. It's happened 90% of the time, just so you guys are clear, okay? And I'm talking about when Republicans lose after winning the presidency. 90% of the time, they lose the House of Representatives. So what could Republicans do between now and then? I was asked this last night. I think that they should start to do exactly what the president did. You need to meet people where they're at. You need to listen to them. You need to prove that you understand the issues. I don't believe Mike Johnson and the party understands our issues. I think they only talk about them because the president talks about them. You saw what the town halls look like. I mean, most of them didn't even want to do a town hall. They didn't want to hear the complaining about Doge. But you know who continues to hold rallies? You know who continues to go talk to their voters? AOC, Bernie Sanders. We disagree with their policies, but they're following political principles that will win elections, that will gain trust. I don't think Republicans have gained any trust so far. What have they done for the American people? I mean, maybe you guys can tell me. I'm not too sure they have. It's President Trump who did something about the border. Okay? It's President Trump who did something about gas prices. It's President Trump who did something about egg prices. Okay? It's President Trump who's done something about funding endless wars. That's not Republicans in Congress. So they have a lot of work to do, is what I'm saying. All right. Now, speaking of what the president's been doing, because I'm going to circle back on this whole Mamdani situation. What is a democratic socialist? I just want to make sure we cover this breaking news story. Again, the president said that he's not going to fund SNAP benefits. Let's watch this really quickly.
The Trump administration says it will fund only half of November's SNAP benefits, which means that millions of low-income Americans could go hungry this month. The president's now saying that payment will have a new condition to go through. Joining us now is MSNBC Capitol Hill reporter Kevin Fry. Kevin, what are we hearing from the president?
Yeah, this is new on his Truth Social platform just within the last half hour or so, that he goes on to say that he will be these SNAP benefits, which he complains were disastrous under Biden's leadership, will only be given out, he says, when the radical left Democrats open up government, which they can easily do, and not before. This adds all sorts of questions, which I'm sure our legal analysts can wade into, because this seems to fly in the face of what some federal courts have been saying in the last few days about distributing those kind of rainy day funds worth of money of SNAP benefits. But nonetheless, this only amps up pressure, it seems, on lawmakers here on Capitol Hill. This is something that we've not only seen Trump do, but GOP leaders here on Capitol Hill writ large, which is to basically say the only way that we're going to distribute these funds, the way to make this issue of SNAP and food insecurity go away, is for lawmakers, namely the Democrats, to vote along with Republicans to just open the government and get the program running up normally again.
Okay. Let's go to me really quickly here. So if we had it our way and we truly cared about the health of our country from a financial point of view, we would cut all SNAP, but we would cut all programs. And we'd start fresh. And we'd have a strict process on how people are even able to receive them in the first place. I'm not talking about making it impossible. I'm talking about common sense things like, hey, you need to prove that you're a citizen of this country. You need to prove that you have a job. You need to prove that you're working 40 hours. I think these are common sense things. And the federal government subsidizing state level SNAP benefits and welfare and all this other stuff, we need to put more restrictions on that too. Because what states end up doing is they find the loopholes and they get even more federal tax dollars instead of using their tax dollars. None of that's going to happen, of course, because, again, that would be political suicide. Just already the fact that the Trump administration has work requirements on SNAP moving forward as of November 1st. Because the government is shut down, you haven't really heard about it, but that is because of the one big beautiful bill. He's already getting sued over that for work requirements. Isn't that interesting? Okay, let's go to the question that I wanted to cover really quickly with you guys. Why is it that socialism won't work in the United States of America, especially given that Zohran Mamdani might be elected as the next New York City mayor? Well, bottom line answer from AI is socialism, defined broadly as a system where the state control mechanisms run major parts of the economy or redistribute wealth heavily, faces structural, political, and cultural barriers in the United States. The election or possible election of Zohran Mamdani in New York City doesn't change those barriers, though it may shift the discussion. In short, socialism may gain more traction locally or for specific policies, but a full-scale socialist economic model is highly unlikely to be sustainable or fully adopted in America. So that's good news, right? I think our founding fathers know what they were doing in that regard, constitutional republic. Now, the main reasons that it gives us is starting with the economy. The U.S. economy is dominated by market capitalism, private ownership, large corporate sectors, and a financial system oriented around profit, investment, and capital markets. Shifting that wholesale to state-controlled or heavily state mechanisms risk massive disruption. So all we have to do is look at Venezuela as an example. That is a country that is ruled by socialism at this point. They went away from democracy. And now, instead of having a country who used to be one of the wealthiest countries in the world, they have hit triple digits inflation. You've never heard of that. Imagine having inflation that goes to 100%. We've never heard of that as American citizens. 100%. Think about that. That's what happened in that country. Socialism. So these people who are voting for him, they don't know what they're voting for. They think they're voting for things that are going to help them. They may feel relief short term, but long term, it will destroy New York City. And it goes back to the old adage of your health. Okay, what do I mean by that? You could take the pills and treat your symptoms, or you can just treat the root cause. It's your choice, of course. New York City is voting because of symptoms. They're not voting on the root cause. And I think they will suffer for it. Okay. Let's see what you guys have to say about all this. Let's see here. Can we zoom out? There we go. All right. I don't know. We must have a troll in the comments in regards to immigration. Yeah. Okay, so here we go. Two Events says, stop hating on the immigrants and poor. Trillions have been taken from our treasurer to fund forever wars. I'm not hating on immigrants and the poor. You see, there's nothing you can do if you are born poor. Let me tell you how much I am very aware of this. Excuse me. I cannot control the fact that my mom and my father were drug addicts. I cannot control the fact that my father has 12 kids by different women. I can't control the fact that my mom had 5 kids from different men. I couldn't control the fact that I ended up having to be adopted. And the person who adopted me was not married. She was a single parent. I couldn't control any of that. Okay? I couldn't control the fact that my mother, who adopted me, died from breast cancer in high school. I had to go live with my friend. I couldn't control the fact that a family member did some things only the devil would do to children. Okay? But what I can't control is once I turned 18 years old, I can control taking responsibility for my situation and start making decisions to improve my situation. And in order to do that, I got to improve my mindset first. Those are things I can control. This isn't about ragging on immigrants or the poor. The problem and why people stay poor is they don't do what I just said. Mindset, financial literacy, those two alone will make a difference in a person's life. You don't need to be rich financially. You just need to manage your money properly. Now, I know it sounds simple, and it sounds simple, and it is difficult, obviously, especially when you have record high inflation. But we live in the richest country in the world. Even a bum on the corner technically is richer than most people in the world in other places. I mean, you could literally be homeless and make more money than people in Africa. You just got to stand on the corner and ask for money. So it's easy when you're in a tough situation financially. You could feel broke, right? You could feel like, man, I can't get by. You got to understand, because of capitalism, you can get by. You can figure it out. There are opportunities out there, but you got to go through the storm. It's called life. I mean, there's no escaping it. We all go through it. So, you know, sometimes some of us go through it later in life. Some of us go through it early in life, you know. But I'm a strong believer that one or two things are going to happen when you're going through pain. You're either going to quit and give up, or are you going to lean in on your faith? I believe the people who lean in on their faith are the people who make it out. Even sometimes the people who don't believe in any of that, they still make it out and their life gets better. And they say it's just because of luck. So, this isn't about ragging on immigrants or the poor. This is about telling the truth. And most people don't want to accept that. The truth is hard to accept. Guys, if you're on Rumble, this stream is about to get rated, just as a heads up. Just want to make sure you guys are aware. I know you guys don't like it if you're in tune with what I'm talking about right now. So if you guys want to come back, because I need a few more minutes to wrap this up, by all means, please do so. Okay, so nobody's ragging on immigrants and the poor. All right, let's keep going. I'd rather be broke and no debt than credit rich. I mean, our country is literally operating on debt. We are a country that operates on debt. It's interesting. Let's see here. The amount of Democrat election BS makes me sick. That and their constant lies. Yep, I agree with you. Yep, but where does the debt come from? It comes from borrowing money we don't have. That's where it comes from. Faith won't put food on your plate. Yeah, but faith will get you up in the morning and get you to keep doing what you need to do to put food on your plate. Most people don't have any faith, so they quit. As soon as they bribe, I don't know what you meant. Even low million class influencers serve their purpose. They're cast down research night of the long knives. Yeah, I have no idea what you're trying to say. I have no idea what you're trying to say. You gotta, like, if you're gonna present competing ideas, man, you gotta know how to articulate what you're trying to say. You wrote a confusing statement. It makes no sense. Okay, so you're saying that middle class and low millionaire class influencers who are bribed, who are they bribed from? I'm not too sure. They will be cast down. Yeah, wars for 7 countries. For Israel, wars for donors, all put the country in debt. You know what's interesting? I'm not going to say that you're wrong, but you're not thinking big enough. You know what puts this country into debt? You know what makes up 72% of our federal budget? I'll pause here. You guys put the answers in the chat. How many of you guys know what makes up 72% of our federal budget? 72% of our federal budget is going to what? Let's see if you guys really know this. I'm challenging you guys. Everybody thinks the whole problem is Israel. You're not thinking big enough. Let's see how many of you guys know this. What is 72% of our budget? What does it go to? It goes to the entitlement programs. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. 72%. Are you paying attention? See, it's easy to get wrapped up in this whole rhetoric about Israel and forget to do the research yourself and look at the numbers. Okay, 72%. And then throw on the Department of Defense. Now you're at 80%. That, again, I mean, yeah. See, long time ago, they had a great idea. Entitlement benefit programs. Makes total sense, you know? Social Security, Medicaid, get it? Medicaid. Makes sense at the time. But we're way past that at this point. It is bankrupting this country. $38 trillion in debt is due to entitlement benefit programs, not endless wars. It's easy to say endless wars because, you know, you were throwing so much money over there, but that's still a fraction of benefit programs. That's why when Elon Musk threatened to go after these programs, what happened to him? Even the president had to tell him to tone it down because it's political suicide. See, that's what I'm saying. Americans are hypocrites. We don't like inflation and we cry about it, but we don't want a recession, which would fix inflation. We don't like $38 trillion in debt, but we want our entitlement benefit programs. I mean, we gotta wake up. We've got to wake up. I've done the research. Israel owns the treasury of the United States. We went to wars in Iraq and Afghanistan for them. What does that mean to Americans? Nothing. I'm not talking about that. Why don't you tell us what the numbers are? Why don't you tell us right now in the chat, how much money has the American people spent on Israel and compare that to Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid? I'm talking about the real issues. If you want to talk about Israel and their influence, then let's talk about it. Let's go to the root cause. Citizens United. The Supreme Court ruled that corporations are people and can donate a limited amount of funds to somebody's campaign. You guys think Israel is a problem? You know who's the number one country who donates the most money to America? Our institutions, our lobbyists, our special interest groups. You know which country is the number one on that list? It's China. China, $531 million a year. You guys think Israel is a problem? If you think Israel is a problem, imagine what China is. You think Israel can cut off our supply chain right now? No, but China can. You think Israel controls countries like, that are in South America? No, but China does. You guys think too small. I'm not saying there's no merit to Israel and their influence. What I'm saying is, even in those arguments, we're thinking too small as Americans. The real threat is China and the people in Washington who continues to fund these entitlement benefit programs that are bankrupting the country every single day. $38 trillion in debt. That's what the numbers say, not my opinion. That's what the numbers say. You can argue against the numbers all you want, but it's not going to change the reality of it. Yeah, China is the problem overall, but Israel has bought our influence. Again, you prove my point. China is the problem overall, but okay, so then let's forget about China. That's what I'm saying. If we really want to have these conversations, let's really be brutally honest. If you really believe Israel is a problem, then you really should be screaming about China. If you're screaming about Israel, then you definitely should be screaming about China. Let's be consistent, folks. If you're screaming about inflation, then why are you not screaming for a recession? If you're screaming that our politics or our politicians are sold to the highest bidder, then we should be screaming at the Supreme Court, Citizens United. If we're screaming about our $38 trillion in debt, then you should be screaming about entitlement benefits program. It's basic financial literacy, which most Americans lack. Just look at the numbers. Just look at the numbers. As a critical thinker, that priority number one is consistency in your thinking. Not, I've learned all this stuff about Israel, and Israel's a problem, so I'm just going to focus on them and not China. Come on, man. Be consistent at least. I'm not saying Israel isn't a problem. I'm not minimizing and how people feel about Israel. But again, they don't control our supply chain. They don't have the same amount of nuclear weapons that China does. They don't have the same size military that China does. They also don't have the same relationship with Russia that China does. Are you paying attention? They also don't have the same tariffs, and they don't steal our IPs like China does. Every week, I keep hearing a story about a military soldier, someone that's in tech in Silicon Valley, selling secrets to China, selling secrets to Russia. Russia sends their women who are very attractive to Silicon Valley to date men who are in tech who don't have any time to date. They send them to the country and they start working them to get the secrets. Here's a better question. How many American students are studying engineering and physics? Did you know the top students in the world when it comes to engineering and physics, which is a requirement for the future, is China? So my thing for the people out there that have strong opinions about everything in our country, all I'm asking for is consistency. That's it. If we really want to focus on problems, let's focus on them. Let's go to the real problems. Why is it that China is outpacing? I mean, it's not even a comparison at this point. They have lapped us times 10 on education. Did you guys know that Elon Musk, his study is engineering and physics? I'm gonna stop. I just don't think people really, I think Americans are hypocrites. I'm one too. And I think if we're really going to solve problems in our country, we got to first look in the mirror and accept how hypocritical we are at times so we can start talking about the real issues. I think that's critical thinking. I might be wrong. But I could tell you what, the numbers don't lie. China spends the most money. China has the most influence on trade. China controls our supply chain. And China also influences our elections. We were just crying about TikTok. And China's education is leaps and bounds ahead of America. We don't have, our students are nowhere in comparison to Chinese students. There's just none. There's no comparison. It's not to say that American citizens or students are stupid. It's just that we're not being prepared and taught with the same high standards that China has. And that may be the weakness of capitalism if you think about it, because the education system is for profit. Unlike China, it's a communist system. You will do what we tell you to do. There's a difference. Yeah. Yeah. So, regardless of wherever you stand, the United States of America has its threats. You want to put Israel all the way at the top, go ahead. You want to put China all the way at the top, go ahead. The fact still remains is, as American citizens, first, we need to be looking inside our own home and doing what we can for our own families to create prosperity. That's got to be mission number one. Because these issues we can't control right now. But what we can control is what happens in our own home. What we can't control is, what happens in our community. We can have influence there. I think that that's priority number one. But politics is so convoluted. You're left thinking, what can the American people do? They make radical choices during voting, during elections. That's the only time anything happens. That's what led us to President Trump a second time. So I think those are the real issues that people should be talking about. Let me read a couple of ones on YouTube and then we'll wrap up here. Yeah, we were educated up until around the year 2000, then it all started changing. I wonder why. I wonder why. Exactly. I'm in Southern California. Watching people destroy themselves in our state has been heartbreaking. I've been here my whole life and I've seen this place morph into current hellhole. Yeah. Yeah. This is so good. China has been so effective at growing their influence in the shadows that even the American citizens who are attending college don't even know where the Wall of China is located. Just so you guys all understand, one thing I'll give my mother credit for is she took me outside the country when I was a child. She took me to China. And I got to walk on the Wall of China. It's huge. It's really a masterpiece, to say the least. And it's interesting because they didn't have any of the technology we have today, right? But they did have people. And, you know, when you're an American, you go to China, they all look at you with smiles because they like the dollar over their yen. I don't know if it's like that in 2025, but when I was a kid, that's the way it was. And if you're black, then they definitely look at you because they don't see that very often, okay? Any rate, yeah, most people don't even know. They can't even name 5 countries. I know you guys have seen these clips on social media. You got kids coming out of the university being interviewed talking about socialism is better than capitalism. What are they teaching them exactly? Yeah, that's why we got to speak up. Now, I don't believe Gen Z is stupid. I believe Gen Z is really intelligent. I just think they are disengaged because they've seen the nonsense. So a lot of them are like, screw it, I'll just do my own thing. Now, that may be for better or worse, but I'll give them credit for that. At least, hey, you know what? I'm not going to play this game. I'm going to go start my own business. I'm going to go travel here. I'm going to go do this. That's what a lot of them do. Okay. All right. I think we're at the end here. I appreciate you guys' attention today. Really good conversation. I think a lot of these topics are worth debating over. I think these are the real issues we should be debating. I really do. I mean, that's just how I feel about it. Yeah, let's go here first. There we go. That's how I really feel about it, because I think at the end of the day, we cannot get so wrapped up in issues we can't control and forget to focus on the issues that we can control. We have influence at the local level when it comes to elections. California's about to prove that with Prop 50. You have influence as far as your city, your local town. For example, do you guys remember the flooding that took place in middle of Texas, right? It was a record flood, never, I guess, happened in history, or the last time it happened, people died as well. Anyways, when they did the investigation, they found out that the local people they elected tried to get better warnings, tried to get a better system in there. But the people voted against it because they said it was going to cost too much money. See, that is an example where we have direct influence. If the people of that town had voted to have better equipment and emergency sirens and things like basically they proposed a system that was similar to hurricanes and tornadoes, but because it cost too much money and the people who lived there didn't want to pay extra taxes, they said no. So their vote had a direct influence on what happened there. So my point is like, that's an example of what you can control. That's a point of what you can focus on. If you have children, you definitely have influence as far as what they're going to college to study. I think we could also talk about encouraging our children to leave this country and see the world so they can have a different, well, we called it a culture shock in the military. I think there's a lot of things that we could focus here internally in our own communities, in our own home, our own neighborhoods, where we can see prosperity. We could see positive effects, even if we can't do much about Israel, even if we can't do much about China or Citizens United, whatever you believe, okay? But the good thing is, because life is short, you can leave this planet knowing, hey, you know what? I did something in my neighborhood. I did something in my home. I did something for my next kids. And that's better than doing nothing at all instead of just complaining online all day. Leave the earth better than you found it is what I like to live by. Leave this country better than you found it. And it starts with you, starts with us in our own communities. All right, I think that's enough for today. Hey, thank you so much for checking us out today, giving me your attention. I'm sure you didn't agree on everything I said. That's fine. But it's about common sense commentary for these uncommon times. Critically thinking, understanding how to talk about the real issues. That's what we're trying to do here. And so I appreciate you giving me your time. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America. Take care, everyone.